Tell me, how many times have you wished you had a proven process for making triple sure that your data projects would be a success? Well, stay to the end of this video and you are going to see all of the ingredients that go into creating an Evergreen Analytics Strategy Framework. And I'm even going to give you my own Evergreen Data Strategy Framework that you can start using today if you so choose. For the very best data leadership and business building advice, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon in order to be notified every time that I come out with a new video once per week. Whether you're new to the data field or, like me, been at it over a decade, it is vitally important that you make sure that the work you're doing on a daily basis is actually and positively impacting your company's bottom line. It's not that difficult for you to conceptually bridge that gap either. How do I know? Well, to date, I've trained over 1 million data professionals on AI. So you could say I know a thing or two about data science. And I've been delivering strategic plans since 2008 for organizations as big as the US Navy, National Geographic, and Saudi Aramco. Hi, I'm Lillian Pierson, and I support data professionals to becoming world-class data leaders and entrepreneurs. To create an Evergreen Analytics Strategy Framework, you first need to understand what it is and how it's beneficial. So let me break that down for you real quick. What it is? Well, an Evergreen strategy is a strategy for continually generating new and improved revenues and profits from your business's investment into data skill sets, technologies, and resources. Now, to be evergreen, a strategy needs to be adaptable enough to perform and continually drive results and meet its objectives despite changes in market conditions. Now, why you need an evergreen strategy is that the competitive landscape is changing so incredibly fast, especially in the data space. So in order to keep up and stay competitive, businesses need to make sure that they have evergreen strategies in place. Now, if you don't plan for this type of change, then it will be very easy for you to create systems that will rapidly become obsolete. And then your company would have lost most of its investments into the data initiative. Now, if that happens, you do not want to be the one with the fingers pointing at you. That's why you need to make sure that your analytics strategy is evergreen, meaning that it makes provisions for your company in order to stay nimble enough to keep up with the speed of innovation, remain adaptable to current market conditions, and stays up to date, timely, and relevant with respect to how it's generating new and improved revenues from data technologies, skill sets, and resources. Actually, let's stop for a second here. I want to hear from you. Have you ever worked on any type of evergreen strategy, data analytics or otherwise? I would love it if you would let me know all about your experience in the comments below. Moving on, let's look at what is an analytics framework anyway. An analytics framework is an overarching, reusable process that you can leverage to ensure that your company's data initiatives are squarely meeting its business goals, and that the company's data operations are directly in support of the business in reaching its business vision. Now, an analytics framework helps you to develop your data projects and data initiatives in a way that directly meets these objectives. About what an analytics framework actually does, well, it helps you to create direct focus, not only for yourself, but for the other team members that are supporting your company's data initiatives. You could think of it as helping to keep your company's data eyes on the prize. The prize being new and improved business profits. Now let's talk a little bit more about why you need an analytics framework. As I've already discussed, an analytics framework is super duper important to protecting the business's return on investment into data projects. How it does that? Well, one, it prevents spinning wheels. Basically, this happens when a data person, an implementation person, gets so focused on the details of the implementation and configuring the solution that they forget to keep their eyes on the core business objective that their work is satisfying. So it's kind of like putting the cart before the horse. If you can manage to keep your eyes and focus directly centered on how your work actually increases business profits for your company, that is going to help you find the clearest, most direct path to reaching that goal. Also, analytics frameworks help to reduce waste. And when I say that, I mean it helps to break down silos between data workers and also data resources. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's the situation where you've got a few different people in a company working to solve the same problem in different ways. You only need one person to find the solution to the problem and share it with the team, right? So an analytics framework helps to reduce wastage in terms of data man-hours, you could say. Now, speaking of increasing focus and decreasing waste in your data projects, I did a whole video on the 8 steps to improving your data science process lifecycle. I'll put a link to that in the description below if you'd like to check it out. Pulling it all together, what is an Evergreen Analytics Strategy Framework? Well, putting it simply, it is a framework you can use to create and maintain an evergreen analytics strategy for your company. Now, to develop one, you have to step back and think about your daily work and process for a bit. Can you think of a 4 or 5 phase process that you could use repeatedly and consistently to make sure that the data projects your company is paying for are actually successful? And when I say successful, I mean that they're either directly or indirectly increasing the bottom line of the business. What about if you look as incrementally as only the data projects you're working on? What steps could you take to make sure that the work you're doing on a daily basis is actually improving the bottom line for your company? With this, I would start first with brainstorming and then trying to develop a process. Within the process, you would detail each step that's required to make sure that your plan is fail-proof. That's how you go about creating an Evergreen Analytics Strategy Framework. Now, of course, there's a good degree of iteration as you're working through this process, and as you work over the years, you will refine your process, make it better, more repeatable, and also more fail-proof. In all honesty, a good framework comes from years of experience. Now, if you want to bypass all of the years of iterations and improvements, you can, of course, use my analytics framework that I'm going to share with you right now. This is what I call the STAR framework. Now, S stands for surveying the industry, and this is where you go through and you do extensive research and case study analysis, use case analysis, getting yourself up to speed with all of the various use cases across the industry and which ones might be most effective in getting your company results, considering its current setup. And when I say current setup, I mean in terms of the people it has in place to implement, as well as the data resources it has and the technologies. Since you're a data worker, you're intimately aware of these aspects. So there's really no one better than you to be out there surveying the industry and trying to identify optimal use cases for implementation at your company. Now, the T stands for taking inventory. What you'll need to do is go to your company and either collect or generate documentation that describes all of the various aspects of operations inside your business. You definitely don't want to limit yourself to only data operations because data operations aren't really the core business operations that need to be optimized. So you'll need to take a more holistic view of your company and its most urgent needs. Tools you can use for taking stock and inventory of your company include things like surveys, interviews, and simple requests for information. Now, the A in the STAR framework stands for assess your organization. And this is essentially where you take all of the documentation that you have collected in the previous phase and you go ahead and you start evaluating and start looking for gaps or areas of opportunity. Also, you'll need to consider imminent risks that could be mitigated through implementing the right data use case. And after doing a super thorough evaluation of your business and its operations, you would go ahead and you would hone in on that ideal optimal use case that's going to give the biggest bang for your company's buck. Now, this use case needs to be based on your company's existing resources. So you need to make sure that you're creating as much value as possible from its existing technologies, skill sets, and data resources. Lastly in the STAR framework is R. That is, recommend a strategy for reaching future state goals. Now, this is essentially the phase where you'll go ahead and create a strategic plan for implementing that lowest hanging fruit data use case. One of the beauties of the STAR framework is it's essentially a process you can rinse, wash, and repeat every 18 months to make sure that your company has a proven evergreen data analytics strategy that it's following and that's working to increase the company's bottom line. We have covered a ton here in terms of Evergreen Analytics Strategy Frameworks and why they're essential to the success of data projects. But of course, there's way more to it. So if you would like me to do all the heavy lifting for you, you can get my Evergreen Analytics Strategy Framework that comes with 44 sequential action item steps that you need to take in order to create a fail-proof data strategy plan for your company. It's called the Data Strategy Action Plan. And I'll put a link to it in the description below. If you like this video, be sure to show it some love by giving it a thumbs up and comment below telling me what is the next step you're going to take to make sure that your data projects are a success. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel so you'll be first to know when my next episode drops.